Daniel Harper never thought his life would look like this: 2 jobs, a pile of unpaid bills on the kitchen counter, and a pair of sneakers far too small for his growing son sitting by the door. At 36, he was a single dad raising 10-year-old Ethan in a house that always felt too quiet without a mother's laughter. To make ends meet, Daniel decided to rent out the extra room in their modest home. It wasn't much: peeling wallpaper, creaky floors, and a window that stuck in the winter, but it was all he could offer. He placed a simple ad on a community board, hoping for a student or young professional who wouldn't mind the imperfections. When the knock came one chilly evening, Daniel opened the door to a young woman with bright eyes and an uncertain smile. Her name was Lily, a college sophomore looking for a safe place away from campus noise. She seemed shy, humble, and grateful just to find a room within her budget. Daniel, unaware of the world she came from, only saw a hard-working girl in need of a chance. Ethan peeked around his father's leg, instantly curious about the newcomer. And though Daniel couldn't have imagined it then, this small decision, to open his home, would change their lives forever in ways he never dreamed possible. Lily settled into the little room with surprising ease. She didn't complain about the drafty window or the creaky floorboards. Instead, she pinned photos of her friends on the wall and lit a small lavender candle that made the hallway smell like home. Ethan adored her almost instantly. She helped him with math homework at the kitchen table, patiently explaining fractions while Daniel cooked simple dinners of spaghetti or chicken soup. Sometimes, she even stayed up late with Ethan to build blanket forts in the living room, their laughter echoing in a house that had long felt too heavy. Daniel watched quietly from the doorway, marveling at how naturally she fit into their lives. Yet, he never asked much about her family. She spoke vaguely, mentioning college classes, a part-time job at the library, and how she wanted to live simply. To Daniel, she was just a kind-hearted student trying to find her place in the world. He never once imagined the truth, that her father was one of the wealthiest businessmen in the state, a man whose name often appeared in newspapers and business journals. Lily kept that secret tucked away, preferring to be seen for who she was rather than the fortune attached to her last name. For the first time, she felt free, not a millionaire's daughter, but just Lily, living in a humble home where laughter meant more than money. One snowy evening, everything shifted. Daniel came home late from his second job, shoulders sagging under exhaustion, only to find Ethan asleep on the couch with Lily draping a blanket over him. The sight tugged at Daniel's heart more than he cared to admit. But then Lily noticed Daniel's pale face and the weariness etched deep into his features. "You skipped dinner again, didn't you?" she asked softly, setting a plate in front of him. It wasn't fancy, just reheated stew, but to Daniel, it felt like a feast. He tried to brush it off, insisting he was fine, but Lily's eyes told him she saw more than he wanted to reveal. Over the next weeks, she quietly began helping in ways that startled him. Groceries appeared in the fridge when money was tight. Ethan's worn-out sneakers were suddenly replaced with a pair that fit perfectly, though Lily swore she found them on sale. She even paid part of the heating bill once, though Daniel argued furiously until she convinced him it was just a temporary loan. Slowly, he realized this young woman wasn't just renting a room, she was becoming family. Yet Daniel, proud and stubborn, couldn't shake the gnawing question. Why would a college girl with so little to her name sacrifice so much for people she barely knew? The answer came unexpectedly one afternoon when a sleek black car pulled up outside the modest house. Daniel, carrying groceries, froze as a man in an expensive suit stepped out, his presence commanding and unfamiliar in their quiet neighborhood. Lily appeared at the doorway, her face paling at the sight of him. "Dad," she whispered, her voice trembling. Daniel nearly dropped the bags. Her father, the renowned businessman Richard Montgomery, was standing on his porch. In that moment, the puzzle pieces clicked painfully into place. Lily wasn't struggling to get by, she had chosen to live humbly, away from wealth and privilege, craving authenticity. Richard's stern eyes softened only when he looked at his daughter. "Do you know how worried I've been?" he said, though the tension in his voice carried more than concern, it carried pride and confusion. Daniel felt like the ground beneath him had shifted. All the while, this girl had been the daughter of a millionaire, quietly folding herself into their lives without a trace of entitlement. But instead of feeling betrayed, Daniel's heart swelled with something else, admiration. Lily hadn't come to them out of need. She had come to them out of choice. She had sought love, warmth, and belonging, and in return, she had given back more than Daniel ever expected. The days that followed were filled with conversations Daniel never expected to have. Richard wanted his daughter back in her rightful place, but Lily refused to leave. "Dad, this is the first time I've felt truly at home," she insisted, her voice steady yet emotional. She told him about Ethan, how his laughter reminded her of simpler joys, and about Daniel, who carried the weight of the world with quiet dignity. Richard, though hesitant, began to see what his daughter meant. He visited more often, at first out of obligation, but soon he found himself lingering, watching the bond that had formed in this modest household. One evening, when Ethan proudly showed him a drawing of their new family, Richard's usually composed face softened with tears. He realized that wealth could build empires but not memories like these. Daniel, humbled and still wary, tried to keep his distance, fearing the power imbalance. Yet Lily's determination drew them closer. She reminded Daniel that compassion didn't belong to the rich or poor, it was simply human. Slowly, Richard stopped trying to pull her away and instead began asking how he could help. And for the first time, Daniel didn't feel like a man barely surviving, he felt like someone worth standing beside. Spring arrived with new beginnings. The once drafty little house now buzzed with warmth, not from money or luxury, but from the kind of love that stitched broken lives back together. Richard, humbled by what he'd witnessed, offered to help renovate the home, not out of pity, but out of gratitude for the way Daniel and Ethan had embraced his daughter without knowing her name or fortune. Daniel, though reluctant at first, accepted, realizing that pride should never stand in the way of building a better life for Ethan. Lily stayed, not as a tenant but as family, her laughter now woven into every corner of their days. Ethan often declared, "We're the luckiest team ever," and Daniel couldn't help but agree. He had opened his door to a stranger and, in return, gained not only a loyal friend for his son but also a partner who taught him that kindness has no boundaries. What began as a desperate attempt to pay bills had transformed into something priceless, a home filled with trust, hope, and the reminder that sometimes the greatest gifts come when you least expect them. And as the sun set on their little porch, Daniel finally believed that life, no matter how broken it once seemed, could still surprise you with miracles.